Hey all, Baruch Levi B here from Soul Centered. I am coming to you live from my home in Denver, Colorado. I just got back from a week out in the woods. I got a little sun. I just realized a little too much sun, and pretty refreshed, rejuvenated. I've been working on this program that you see here called the Defiant Spirit. The Defiant Spirit is my work around both synthesizing the work of Dr. Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning and father of logotherapy, Holocaust survivor, and an inspirational human being who really taught that we always have an ability to choose our response to our life, no matter what the circumstances. And that's really the difference maker between great men and women and less than. And I want to talk about Will Smith and what I saw this week. I didn't see it live. I watched it, like most of you probably, in replay, but really disgusted by what I saw. And then the Enneagram is a pathway to show us how. How do I react and how do I start responding? And so that's really at the core of this conversation. I see Will Smith as an example of what our society unfortunately too often becomes, which is a celebration of somebody's outer image, right? The image they present to the world. The guy looks successful. The guy has created successful movies. The guy has conveyed a sense of strength and achievement, and yet in a moment's notice, in my opinion, canceled it all and became a joke himself inside of that joke. So I want to talk about that because I saw it coming and I've seen it oftentimes in Enneagram 3. So I'm going to talk about specifically Enneagram 3. This does not mean that an Enneagram 3, Enneagram is a personality assessment. There's 9 different types. Ennea means 9. So the Enneagram 3 on a lower level looked like what Will Smith did. On a higher level, great examples of Enneagram 3s out there abound. I mean, one example is Oprah Winfrey. She's a healthy, successful, truly successful human being. She has this 3 quality and ability to go out into the world, to contribute, to create important, contribute important messages of inspiration, and who she is on the inside matches who she is on the outside. And that's the best of what an Enneagram 3 as an example has to offer. And she's really learned how to ascend up that ladder versus Will Smith, who's an unhealthy 3. And so the Enneagram 3 at an unhealthy level, so you can see here the Enneagram and that green number 3. So if you look at that, I'm going to just take you to what happened to Will Smith and why I see it as such a example of his failure is because in Enneagram 3, every type has a struggle, call it a passion, a vice. And for the Enneagram 3, it's deceit. And deceit doesn't mean that they're liars. It means that Enneagram 3 must stand guard against this flaw. And this flaw of deceit is not just lying to the outside world, it's lying to themselves, right? They start believing their own bullshit if they're not careful. All Enneagram types have their shadows. And so these are the different shadows of each Enneagram type. But I'm talking about Will Smith. I'm talking about how he ended up reacting and not responding and ending up on the lower side of the Enneagram 3. So it wasn't that Will Smith got up there and slapped Chris Rock, which was wrong. It was violent. It was criminal. I think Chris Rock should have pressed charges. I think the Academy should have kicked him out. I don't know if he should lose his Oscar over it. You've had pedophiles win Oscars, and you've had, Harvey Weinstein and other violators of all kinds of things maintain there. So I'm not sure that this would justify losing an Oscar, but I do think it would have justified people standing up saying, get the hell out. Like, you don't assault another human being on the stage and we just sit down and ignore it. So like, why didn't the Academy kick this guy out? Wasn't he escorted out? Because he presents as Will Smith, the successful man, but underneath it was a lot of deception and lies. And so look, what Chris Rock said was not nice, but that does not justify a physical response. What Will Smith missed was an opportunity to man up, to stand up, and to respond by getting up next. He won the Oscar. He got up minutes later, and he could have stood up there, and he could have been the higher side of a three, which was to demonstrate a strength. Threes are strong. These are CEO types. These are generals. I got a good friend, Michael Feiner, who's the high side of a three. He's a general, retired general in the National Guard. These are leaders, men and women who can inspire the masses when they don't lie to themselves. So, what was the lie of Will Smith? It was that when he got up next and he stood there and he accepted his Oscar, he didn't apologize. What did he say? He said, everything I do out of love. So I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I did this for my wife because I loved her. That's why I hit Chris Rock. Really? Right? You believe that, Will Smith? You believe that's why you hit Chris Rock? Or you believed because you were in reaction, because you were laughing when he was making the joke and you looked over at your wife and you saw she was disgusted that her husband was laughing at this joke. And in that moment, you reacted. You didn't respond. And you were just putting lie on top of a lie on top of a lie. So you get up there and you take an award. You should have said, I don't deserve this award. I certainly don't deserve it in this context. I'm going to forego my speech and simply say, Chris, I am sorry. And that was wrong. And I'm walking away from this and leaving you all to have your night because I just overshadowed it. What did Will Smith say? He said, I am a source of light unto this world. He said that. Really? Tell that to Chris Rock. Tell that to all of your millions of viewers. Tell that to the Academy. You just dwarfed this, and tell that to the Williams family. Disgraceful. You just dwarfed that light with darkness of your cowardice. And that's really the work of the Enneagram 3, is to get into those moments where truth can be spoken. This is how a 3 finds their way back, through truth. See that? It's called the virtue. Get up there and tell the truth. Tell the truth to the world. We all knew the truth. Tell it to yourself, Mr. Smith. Tell yourself that you just failed your wife and Chris Rock and the Academy and your fans. Okay, we all make mistakes. That is fine. You could have gotten up there and begun the process of repairing the damage by telling the truth. But you told yourself that you're a great man, and that's why you did what you did, and that's why you're accepting this award, and you're shining a light into the world. You're not. And that's the work of the Enneagram. It points out, if we are on autopilot, if we are unconscious, the lies that we will tell ourselves. Each of us, as an Enneagram type, has a default type of lie, or I'll call it reaction, where we go when we're in fear. I could have predicted what would have come next out of Will Smith's mouth after he slapped Chris Rock, because he is on the lower side of this 3. He's living in self-deceit, and he's going to get up there and keep perpetuating lie after lie, deceit after deceit, until he makes his stand, which is what Dr. Frankl talks about, the defiant stand of the human spirit, to get up there, to take responsibility for what you've done, for who you are, and for an Enneagram 3, to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Tell it to the world, because we all know it. Tell it to your wife. You're sorry you laughed at her. Tell it to Chris Rock. You're sorry you hit him. And tell it to yourself that in that moment, you were not a shining light. You can be. You will be again. But the only way back is through the truth. By the way, there's a lot of great Enneagram 3s who've done the exact same thing. Lance Armstrong was an Enneagram 3. Tiger Woods is an Enneagram 3. Some really seriously devastating Enneagram 3s were Bernie Madoff and Jeffrey Skilling. Lots of white collar crime ends up because of Enneagram 3s, who tell one little lie and another, or maybe it's not even a lie at first. Maybe Madoff's first investment was a half truth, was withholding some of the truth. And the problem is if an Enneagram 3 isn't conscious of their passion, their penchant for self-deception, then they start believing their own bullshit. And that's the pathway to hell for an Enneagram 3. When I coach Enneagram 3s, I don't care if you lie to me. I don't give a crap, right? It's about you lying to the person who's trying to help show you a mirror to find your way back to the true you. If you lie to me, you're lying to yourself. And if you're lying to yourself, you're on a pathway to hell. You may not end up like Bernie Madoff or Jeffrey Skilling. You may not end up like Will Smith on the world stage, but mark my words, Enneagram threes who don't stand guard against self-deceit invariably end up in some version of a Will Smith kind of hell. Will Smith could recover. He should recover. He should man up and stand up and do this work, but he probably won't because he's now spinning down the spiral of believing his own bullshit. So, how do we break through? How do we break free? I'm going to share with you this slide. This is my work of the Defiant Spirit, and Defy Your Number is my program that I now am offering. So it's almost ready for sale, but not quite. So it's about defying your Enneagram number and realizing you are not a number. Will Smith, you are not an Enneagram 3. You're reacting like an Enneagram 3, but you can respond however you want to in life. And that's the work of Dr. Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So let me say it again. Between stimulus, a bad joke by Chris Rock, and response or reaction, you getting up there and slapping this poor guy for making a bad joke, there is a space. And if you learn what that space is, and you learn where you go when you are in fear, because Will Smith was in fear, right? He was scared. He felt bad. He was small. When you're in that place of being small, how do you map that out? How do you know this is my reaction? These are my patterns. That's back to the Enneagram. Taking a look at this is where I go when I'm small. This is my pattern when I'm in fear. And what Dr. Frankl says is in that space, you can learn who you are, you can learn how you react, and you can make a choice not to get up there and slap another human being, not to get up there and give a speech that was absolutely disgraceful and insulting, not to take responsibility for your bad choices. That's your choice. And so when you do this work of the Enneagram, I've seen it with others, I've seen it in my own life, you start to expand that space. This is a program, this is a system about getting into that space, understanding that space, expanding that space, so I can stop reacting to the insults and the circumstances that are always happening to us. There's always a situation that Chris Rock presented, and far worse than that. And you can start responding. Let me tell you about another comedian, because that's all Will Smith is, a comedic actor, not the world's best actor. It's a good actor. I didn't see this movie, but I guess he is one of the world's best actors now. He got an Oscar. But let me tell you about another comedian who grew up and didn't get an Oscar, but he got a real Oscar on the world stage. And his name is Vladimir Zielinski. You know, Vladimir Zielinski is an Enneagram 7, but it's a lot like the 3. The Enneagram 7 can be shallow, can be surface level. Oftentimes, 7s are the comedians in the world, 3s are the actors, 7s are the comedians. But this is a man who got slapped in a real way by a real villain called Putin, not Chris Rock. And when Vladimir Zielinski was slapped across the face and the people of Ukraine were violated and their fundamental human rights taken away and murdered wholesale, categorically, for no reason. There's never a good reason, but no reason at all. Vladimir Zielinski didn't react. Vladimir Zielinski responded and stood up for his people, for his country, for a cause. He not only gave a great speech, he's lived his words. He has aligned himself with a cause. He has expanded the space and chosen his response. So great men and women have faced far more than an insulting joke, and they have responded far better, and they are doing it as we speak. So, my friend, Mr. Smith, you can do better. You can stop reacting and you can start responding, but it's going to come down to learning what that space is, why you react, how you react, taking responsibility for it, and choosing your response. And in your response lies your potential growth and your potential freedom. But until you make that choice, I don't care how many Oscars you have, I don't care how much money you have, I don't care how much fame you have, you are ultimately in reaction and you are small and you are stuck. The opposite of freedom, you are enslaved. So find your space, create your space, make your space for all of us. Make your choice. Go from the low side of your number, and we all have a number, to the high side of your spirit, and we all have a spirit. That is the defiant power of the human spirit, and that is the work that I am here to do, and I offer you. We'd love to hear from you. Jump over to defiantspirit.org if you want to know more about me, about my work, about the Enneagram, about Dr. Frankel, and about how to defy your number and live your spirit. I will see you next time in the next video. Until then, defy your number and live that spirit.